Monifa thought her life was perfect. Living in Lilongwe, Malawi, she had everything she dreamed of: a good job, a lovely home, and a husband who made her feel special. Sefiu, her husband, was charming, smart, and always knew the right words to say. He worked as an accountant and dressed like a man who had everything under control. When he introduced Monifa to his mother, Mama Bwalia, he proudly said, "This is family." Monifa felt honored. Being accepted by his mother meant everything. Mama Bwalia was kind, at least on the surface. She smiled often, gave Monifa compliments, and even brought her small gifts. Monifa tried her best to be the perfect daughter-in-law, cooking, cleaning, and helping whenever Mama Bwalia visited. To anyone watching, they looked like a picture-perfect family. But sometimes pictures lie. There were small things. Sefiu's smile didn't always reach his eyes. He often changed the topic when Monifa talked about the future. Mama Bwalia sometimes made strange comments like, "Men need space," or "a man's money is his pride." Monifa brushed these off, thinking maybe it was just an older woman's way of thinking. Still, something felt off. Late-night phone calls Sefiu claimed were work. Missing money that Monifa blamed on herself. The way Mama Bwalia would glance at her son like they shared a secret. Monifa ignored it all because she loved them, because she believed in her family. But behind Sefiu's perfect smile, something dark was hiding, and soon, it would break everything apart. Monifa sat on the couch with her tea, flipping through her credit card statement like she always did at the end of the month. It was just part of her routine, checking bills, planning expenses. But that evening, something strange jumped out at her. A $2,500 charge. Her heart paused. Zanzibar Resort. She blinked. Looked again. Then once more. It wasn't a typo. It was real. A huge payment. From her account. Her first thought was fraud. Maybe someone hacked her card? But no, the charge had been done online, with all the right verification. Whoever did it knew her details. Her heart began to race. She called Sefiu immediately. No answer. She called again. Still nothing. She texted. "Did you use my card for something in Zanzibar?" No reply. She stared at her phone, confused. Angry. But more than anything, scared. She and Sefiu shared everything, or so she thought. They had no plans to travel. They hadn't even discussed a trip. And $2,500 wasn't small money. It was months of savings, rent, food, her entire emergency fund. Gone. Trying to stay calm, she called Mama Bwalia. Maybe she knew something? What charge? Mama Bwalia asked sweetly, her voice calm. Zanzibar. $2,500. On my card, Monifa said, trying to keep her voice steady. Oh, maybe it's a mistake. These banks do strange things sometimes. Mama Bwalia replied, laughing lightly, almost too lightly. Monifa didn't laugh. Her chest tightened. Did Sefiu mention anything about a trip? Mama Bwalia paused. No. Maybe he's planning something for you. A surprise? Men do these things. But something about her tone sounded off. Too casual. Too rehearsed. After the call ended, Monifa sat in silence. Her tea was cold now. Her hands felt numb. She scrolled through her texts with Sefiu. No mention of Zanzibar, no hints, no clues. Just basic check-ins and goodnights. He'd been busy at work. Too busy to come home on time. Too tired to talk. Now she started to connect the dots. He had her card. She remembered. He'd borrowed it a few weeks ago just for fuel. Because his wallet was at home. She had trusted him. Of course she had. He was her husband. And now silence. No answers. No explanation. That night, Monifa didn't sleep. She lay awake replaying every moment of the past few weeks. The lies dressed up as excuses. The way he rushed out the door. The nervous energy he carried. The way Mama Bwalia had smiled too hard at lunch last Sunday. Trust, once strong and solid, was now thin and cracking like old glass. Monifa wanted to scream. To cry. To call him 1,000 times. But she didn't. Instead, she stared at her phone, waiting for it to light up. It never did. That's when it hit her. Not just the money, but the silence. The kind of silence that wasn't just absence, it was a wall, a hiding place, a signal that someone had something to protect, and it wasn't her. In that silence, Monifa realized something even deeper than betrayal was happening. Her family wasn't just picture perfect. It was built on cracks she hadn't wanted to see. And now they were starting to break wide open. 3 days passed. 3 long, heavy days. Sefiu still hadn't come home. His phone kept going straight to voicemail. No messages. No explanations, just silence. Monifa felt like she was floating through her own life, going to work, cooking small meals, staring at the wall. But inside, her thoughts were racing. Then one morning, she opened Instagram. Not even to search, just out of habit. And there it was. A photo that stole her breath. Sefiu, standing on a beach. White sand, blue water, Zanzibar. Her heart dropped. Next to him, smiling wide in a flowing dress, was Mama Bwalia. Monifa's hand shook as she scrolled. Another post. A photo of them clinking glasses over a fancy dinner. The caption read, "Mom deserves the best. My gift to the woman who raised me." Her vision blurred with tears. Her card, her money, her dream. Zanzibar had always been Monifa's dream destination. She'd talked about it so many times with Sefiu. She had once even sent him links to resorts there, saying, "One day, maybe for our anniversary?" He had smiled and nodded, but never showed much interest. Now here he was living her dream, but not with her, with his mother. Monifa dropped her phone on the couch and held her face in her hand. Her stomach twisted with a feeling she couldn't even name. Was it betrayal? Was it humiliation? Was it rage? It was all of it, every emotion at once. How could he? How could they? She thought of the lies, the missing wallet, the busy at work, the fake smiles, Mama Bwalya's soft laugh on the phone, pretending she didn't know. They had both lied to her face, used her, spent her hard-earned money like it meant nothing. And worst of all, he made it look like he had paid for it himself. Like he was the golden son, the generous man, the proud provider. While Monifa sat at home thinking maybe she was overreacting. Maybe the charge was a mistake. No, it was a betrayal, planned and executed behind her back. She felt a hot tear run down her cheek. Then another. But she didn't cry out loud. She sat still, staring into nothing, her body shaking, but her mind starting to harden. This wasn't just about money. It was about respect, dignity, truth. He had taken her card. He had taken her trust. And then he had taken his mother, her mother-in-law, to the place she dreamed of going, and made it seem like a gift of love. No apology, no shame, just photos. For likes. That evening, Monifa didn't call him. She didn't text. She sat at her small kitchen table and opened her laptop. Her hands still trembled, but her focus was sharp. She started listing all her accounts. Credit cards, bank logins, mobile money. She pulled out a small notebook and began writing down numbers, passwords, questions. Her fingers moved fast, her breath shallow. But she wasn't panicking. She was planning. Because now she knew the truth. Sefiu wasn't just careless. He was calculated. And if he thought she would sit quietly and wait for him to come home with more lies, he was wrong. He had taken her card. Now she would take control. Monifa didn't scream. She didn't call Sefiu and demand answers. She didn't even comment on their Zanzibar pictures. Instead, she did something far more powerful. She went silent. She waited until late at night, when the house was still and quiet. She sat at her table, laptop open, a pen in her hand and a glass of cold water by her side. Her eyes were tired, her heart was bruised, but her mind had never been sharper. She opened her bank app, took a deep breath and began. First, she froze every account with her name on it. She locked her credit card, changed password, moved her remaining savings into a new, private digital wallet Sefiu didn't know about. She even signed up for text alerts on every transaction. No more surprises. Then she opened a clean notebook. On the first page, she wrote in big letters, "My comeback." She remembered how many women, just like her, had trusted the wrong people. Husbands, brothers, even friends, who had taken their money and power. Monifa thought, what if they knew how to protect themselves? What if I could show them how to use mobile money, like I just did, for defense, for freedom? That night, a new idea was born. By morning, she had a name, Money Smart Women. A simple, powerful idea. She would teach women how to control their own money using mobile phones, how to send, save, block, and even track who touched their accounts. She didn't need a big office. She didn't need a team. She had knowledge, and she had experience, the painful kind. She used a part of her savings to buy a used laptop and a basic projector from a local online store. Then she printed flyers and handed them out quietly in markets, salons, and outside churches. Free training for women. Learn how to protect your money using mobile tools. She kept her tone soft, smiled politely, never mentioned Sefiu, never told anyone about Zanzibar. To the outside world, Monifa looked calm, just a sweet wife holding the home together while her husband was away. She cooked dinner, answered phone calls with a quiet hello, even sent Mama Bwalya a message saying, "Hope you're enjoying Zanzibar." No one saw the fire behind her eyes. At night, after dinner, she watched mobile money tutorials online, took notes, practiced everything until she could teach it with her eyes closed. By the end of the week, she was ready. She held her first class in a small community hall. Only 6 women came, but they listened closely. Some were older, some young. One said, "My husband says I don't need to know about money." Another whispered, "Mine takes my phone at night." Monifa nodded. She understood. With every lesson, she grew stronger. With every woman who said, "I didn't know I could do this," Monifa smiled just a little more. Her pain was turning into purpose. And still, no word from Sefiu. He hadn't called, hadn't texted, but she knew he would return eventually. He would walk through the door like nothing happened. Mama Bwalya would follow, all charm and perfume, with gifts from Zanzibar and fake smile. Monifa was ready. She wasn't waiting to fight. She was building something bigger. This time, she would not ask for respect. She would earn power and never give it back. Monifa was peeling carrots in the kitchen when the front door opened. She didn't flinch. She just listened. Laughter. Footsteps. Rolling luggage. They were back. Sefiu's voice boomed through the house. "Babe, we're home." Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't stolen from her. Like she hadn't spent the last week freezing bank accounts and planning a quiet revolution. Behind him came Mama Bwalia, dressed in a bright floral wrap, sunglasses still on her head, carrying a designer tote bag Monifa knew she had paid for. "Monifa," she sang, "we missed you." Monifa turned slowly, smiled, and said, "Welcome back." Her voice didn't shake. Her hands didn't either. She dried them on a towel, then reached for the kettle. "Tea." Sefiu dropped onto the couch like a king returning from war. "We have so much to show you," he said, pulling out his phone. "Zanzibar was magic. You should have seen the ocean. Crystal blue. Like the photos you always send me. Always you dreamed about," Monifa thought. "And you took someone else." But she just smiled again, pouring water into mugs. Mama Bwalia flopped beside him, already swiping through photos. "He booked everything so well," she bragged. "Private tours, sunset dinner, even massages. I told him, Sefiu, you're such a gentleman. He really outdid himself." Monifa placed the tea on the table, nodded, and sat across from them. She watched their smiles, the way they fed off each other. They wanted praise. They wanted her to say, "Wow, you're amazing. What a beautiful son-mother bond." But she didn't give them that. Instead, she sipped her tea slowly. "I'm glad you enjoyed yourselves," she said softly. "You both look well rested." "Ah, so much." Mama Bwalia stretched her arms. "Zanzibar air does wonders. Maybe next time you come too." Monifa smiled again. Not the kind smile she once gave. This one was quiet, sharp, because she already knew there would never be a next time with them. They just didn't know it yet. That night, once the house was quiet and Sefiu was snoring beside her, Monifa slipped out of bed and opened the closet. She pulled out a small black bag she had hidden behind the shoes. Inside was her used laptop, wrapped in fabric. She took it to the dining table and opened it like a treasure chest. She had already started building the Money Smart Women curriculum. Simple lessons on mobile money, savings protection, budgeting, and even fraud prevention. She added new modules now. Lessons about financial boundaries in relationships. How to say no. How to spot red flags. Every click, every slide she created gave her strength. She thought of the women from her first training. The look in their eyes when they learned they could control their own money. She thought of how they leaned in, asked questions, took notes like their freedom depended on. Because it did. Sefiu thought he had fooled her. Thought his lies were hidden behind that pretty vacation. But Monifa wasn't broken. She was busy. Busy building something that couldn't be taken from her. Not with a card. Not with charm. Not ever again. She didn't cry. Not anymore. She worked. And as the laptop glowed in the dark, Monifa smiled, this time for real. Because the next move was hers. And they wouldn't see it coming. The day Monifa launched her first full Money Smart Women workshop, the sun rose like it knew something big was about to happen. She wore a simple blue dress, tied her hair back, and carried her laptop and projector in a cloth bag. No makeup, no flashy earrings, just focus. She walked into the small community hall, bare walls, plastic chairs, a faint smell of dust, and smiled like it was the grandest stage in the world. 15 women showed up that morning, then 20, then 30. Some came with babies on their backs, some with notebooks. Some just came to listen. And Monifa stood in front of them, not as a victim, not as a wife, but as a teacher, a leader, a woman who had been burned and now carried fire of her own. She taught them how to use mobile money safely, how to lock accounts, track transactions, spot warning signs when someone tries to control your finance. She showed them how to build digital savings and protect passwords. She even taught them how to block people from their accounts, husbands, boyfriends, anyone who used money as power. The women clapped. Some cried. A few whispered, "Where were you 2 years ago?" By the end of the day, someone recorded her speaking, her voice strong, her story honest. They posted it online. It spread like wildfire. By the next morning, Monifa's name was on local WhatsApp groups. On TikTok. On Facebook. Her line, "He used my money for a lie. I used that lie to teach truth," was everywhere. Radio stations called her. Churches asked her to come speak. Women from Blantyre and even Zambia reached out. Some wanted to learn. Some wanted to teach. She was no longer just Monifa, the quiet wife. She was Coach Monifa now. And then, one afternoon, as she set up for a city center workshop in a rented hall, something unbelievable happened. Sefiu walked in. Not alone. With 2 of his close friends. She almost laughed out loud. These were the same men who had once laughed at her idea, who had nodded and smirked when Sefiu said, "Monifa thinks she's some money queen now. Let her play with her little classes." Now, they were sitting quietly, notebooks in hand, looking nervous. Monifa greeted everyone warmly, her eyes brushing past Sefu like he was just another chair in the room. No anger, no drama, just power. As she taught, she saw them listen. Really listen. When she explained how to trace hidden spending, one of Sefu's friends whispered, "I should have known this months ago." When she talked about shared accounts and the right to say no, Sefu shifted in his seat, suddenly aware that the floor under his feet had changed. This was no longer his world. It was hers. Later that night, back at home, he tried to start small talk. "That class was good," he said, rubbing his neck. "People are really talking about you." Monifa nodded. "Yes, they are. You're really doing something," he added, almost like he was surprised. "I've been doing it," she said simply, and walked past him to finish typing up her next lesson plan. Sefu didn't know what to say. For the first time, his words didn't matter, because Monifa didn't need them. She had her voice. She had her mission. And now, even his friends were learning from her. She had flipped the script, and he was just another page in her story. The invitation was printed on thick gold-trimmed paper. Elegant, formal. It read, "You are invited as VIP guests to the National Women's Money Fair, featuring keynote speaker, Monifa Tembo." Sefu read it twice. Then again. He smirked. "Looks like your girl finally made it," he told Mama Bwalia. Mama Bwalia clapped her hands, her bracelets jingling. "Ah, I knew she would go far. That woman is smart. We should go and support her." Sefu nodded. "Yeah, she probably wants to thank us. Maybe even call us up and say how we encouraged her." They dressed like royalty on the day of the event. Sefu in a crisp navy suit. Mama Bwalia in a shiny green chitenge, head wrapped tall and proud. They walked into the convention hall with their chests out, expecting applause. And applause came, but not for them. The room was packed with women from across Malawi, Zambia, and even Tanzania. Tables displayed mobile finance apps. Banners hung high reading, "Money Smart Women, Freedom in Your Hands." And there she was, Monifa, standing on stage, glowing in a bright yellow dress, holding a wireless mic with the ease of a queen. The crowd roared as she smiled. Confident, calm, free. Sefu and Mama Bwalia waved from the front row. She gave them a brief nod, then turned back to the crowd. 2 years ago, she began, I believed I had a perfect family. I believed love meant trust. That marriage meant protection. That money in a shared home was safe. The crowd grew still. But I learned, she continued, that even people you call family can steal from you. And not just money, but your voice, your value, your dream. Sefu shifted in his seat. Mama Bwalia looked confused. Monifa's voice grew stronger. Someone took $2,500 from me, used my card to fly to Zanzibar, took a trip I dreamed of, and handed it to someone else. Lied about it, posted about it, smiled like it was theirs to give. Gasps swept through the crowd. Sefu's smirk vanished. Mama Bwalia blinked rapidly, clutching her handbag. Monifa paused, then said clearly, and today, I want to return the favor. She turned and pointed to the side of the stage. Can we welcome our VIP guests, Sefu Tembo and Mama Bwalia, to the stage, please? The room clapped, unsure of what was happening. Sefu hesitated. He didn't like the way people were looking at him. But Mama Bwalia stood up, smoothing her dress. Let's go, she whispered. They climbed the stage. Monifa didn't hug them, didn't smile. She held up a printed copy of her credit card statement. The $2,500 charge circled in red. Then she pulled out a white envelope. Inside is a bill, she said, handing it to Sefu. Today is the perfect day to settle your debt. On camera, in front of the same community you stole from. Phones rose. Videos rolled. Sefu's mouth opened, then closed. Sweat formed on his forehead. Mama Bwalia gasped. Monifa, this is not the place. This is exactly the place, Monifa said sharply. Because what you did wasn't private. You posted it. You praised it. You used my money and smiled for likes. Now return it, while the world is still watching. The crowd was silent. Then someone shouted, pay her back. Another woman clapped. Then another. And another. The hall exploded with cheers. Sefu, red in the face, took the envelope and stepped back, frozen. Mama Bwalia grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the stairs. Monifa didn't watch them leave. She looked into the crowd and said, if someone steals from you, don't shrink. Shine brighter. Make them regret ever doubting your light. And in that moment, she wasn't just the keynote speaker. She was the storm they never saw coming. The stage lights felt warm on Monifa's skin, but her hands were cool and steady. In her right hand, she held a simple piece of plastic, her old credit card. The same card Sefu had used to fund his lie. She raised it high for the audience to see. This, she said into the mic, her voice calm but sharp, is what he used. Not love, not effort, not honesty. This. Mama Bwalia gasped, her eyes wide as if she'd seen a ghost. Sefu's shoulders twitched. He didn't expect this. Not here. Not like this. The audience leaned in. He stole from me, Monifa said slowly, her voice rising, to buy a dream he never claimed, a trip I spoke about for years, a place I wanted to visit with love in my heart and joy in my spirit. He took that and handed it to someone else. She turned her head slightly towards Sefiu and Mama Bwalia, but didn't look at them directly. Her eyes stayed with the audience. He didn't just take my money. He took my voice. He made me doubt my worth. And I let him. For a while. Gasps. Murmurs. Phones rose across the crowd. Dozens of women, maybe hundreds, recording, capturing every word, every pause, every breath. I found the charge by accident, she went on. I asked questions, got silence. So I built a new voice. I taught women what no one taught me, how to protect your finances from the ones you love but cannot trust. Now she turned fully to Sefiu, who looked smaller than ever on that stage. And today, I'm not asking for an apology. I'm demanding accountability. Mama Bwalia opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came. Her eyes were darting around the crowd, seeing the cameras, the judgment, the shame circling like vultures. She clutched her handbag tighter, as though it could hide her. Sefiu flinched again as Monifa stepped closer, still holding the card in her hand. She didn't yell. She didn't curse. Her voice dropped into something soft, deadly clear. You smiled in every Zanzibar photo like you paid for it. But it was my card, my sweat, my dream. And now it's your shame. The room went silent. Then one clap. Then another. Then an explosion of applause, cheers, shouts, even tears. The crowd was on its feet, a wall of women standing together. They weren't just clapping for Monifa. They were clapping for themselves, for every woman who had ever been tricked, used, silenced, or stolen from. Videos of the moment hit the internet within minutes. She called out her husband on stage. $2, 500 stolen, but she took back her power. Zanzibar betrayal goes public. African women stand. Hashtags lit up. Hashtag money smart women. Hashtag Monifa speaks. Hashtag he stole Shiro. In Nairobi, a radio host replayed the speech. In Lusaka, a women's group played it during their weekly meeting. In Cape Town, someone subtitled it and uploaded it to YouTube. Within a day, the video hit over 1 million views. Sefiu's work clients saw it. Some canceled. His boss sent a polite but firm email requesting a meeting. Mama Bwalia's church group was silent that Sunday. No hugs. No greetings. Just quiet looks. And Monifa? She walked off the stage with grace. No mic drop. No drama. Just power. She had turned her pain into a message. And the world was finally listening. Sefiu sat at his desk, staring at the blinking cursor on his screen. But his inbox was what really made his stomach churn. Unsubscribe. Termination. Client withdrawal. The emails kept coming. One by one, like slow, sharp cuts. Every client who once trusted him with their money now wanted distance. The scandal had reached them all. They didn't even ask for explanations. They just left. His phone, once buzzing with messages and bookings, had gone quiet. A heavy kind of quiet. The kind that hums with shame. He tried to delete the videos, block the tags, pretend it was just internet noise, but the truth was everywhere. His face. His name. Standing frozen on stage as his wife told the world how he stole from her. How he faked a dream and posed as a provider with money that wasn't his. Now, no one wanted an accountant with that reputation. Meanwhile, Monifa was rising faster than anyone expected. The day after the fair, her inbox overflowed. Not with loss, but with opportunity. Nonprofits. Banks. Telecom companies. Women's groups. They all wanted to work with her. Train with her. Sponsor her. She didn't just have a story. She had solutions. She didn't just expose a problem. She was teaching women how to never fall into that trap again. A major mobile money company offered her a regional sponsorship deal, full travel support, equipment, and her name, only her name, on every campaign, every banner, every billboard. Monifa signed the deal without hesitation. The Money Smart Women program expanded within weeks. Her first tour began in Malawi, then Zambia, then Tanzania. Packed rooms, standing ovations, women arriving early with notebooks and leaving with power in their hand. Her face was on posters. Her voice was on the radio. Her message echoed through markets, schools, and town hall. Protect your money. Protect your future. No one else will do it for you. Back at home, Sefiu tried to act normal. He cooked sometimes, sat quietly on the couch, pretended he was figuring things out. But Monifa didn't argue, didn't scream. She didn't even ask him where he was going anymore, because she had already made her final move. One evening, she walked into the living room holding a sleek white envelope. "It's for Mama Bwalia," she said. Sefiu opened it, expecting an apology card, maybe a gift voucher. But what he saw was a one-way airline ticket. Departure, next week. Destination, Lusaka. Sefiu looked up. "What's this?" Monifa didn't flinch. "A new chapter. Somewhere far. Somewhere she can start fresh, without my money. Or my silence." "She's your mother," he said, voice low. No, Monica replied. She's your mother. She lied with you, laughed while I struggled, smiled while you spent my dreams. She can go build something of her own now. I'm done being the background to your show. Sefyu didn't argue. He couldn't. The whole world had seen the truth. Monica packed Mama Bwalya's bags herself, folded each item with calm hand, left out all the fake apologies. No hugs, no tears. When the taxi came, Mama Bwalya stood in the doorway looking unsure. Monica. Aye. But Monica cut her off gently. You don't owe me words. You owe me distance. And with that, she closed the door. That night, Monica sat at her laptop, preparing her next training. A map of East Africa in front of her, her logo in the corner. Her name, only hers, in bold print. Sefyu, once the man who made her feel small, now lived in the shadows of her success. She wasn't Mrs. Tembo anymore. She was Coach Monica, and the world finally knew it. 1 year later, the hall was packed again, this time even bigger. Banners hung high with bold words. Mama Coach School's launch day. Music played softly in the background. Rows and rows of women filled the seats. Survivors, mothers, daughters, dreamers. Some had come from villages, some from cities, but they all came for one reason. She stepped onto the stage in a white suit, glowing with quiet strength. No fear in her steps. No doubt in her voice. The woman who once cried in silence was now leading thousands. Behind her on a large screen were photos of classrooms opening across Malawi, Zambia, and Tanzania. Inside them, women sat proudly, learning how to budget, protect their income, build businesses, say no without guilt, and walk away from abuse without fear. This is not just a school, Monica said, standing tall. This is a doorway, a path back to yourself, a way out of silence, out of shame, out of control. She looked around the room, her eyes shining with tears, but not the broken kind, the strong kind, the healed kind. I started this journey with a broken heart and an empty bank account, she said, her voice steady. He took my card, and with it, he tried to take my power. A long pause. Then she smiled slowly, deeply, proudly. But I took my life back. The crowd erupted, clapping, cheering, some women crying, others standing up with fists in the air. It wasn't just applause. It was recognition, celebration, freedom. Monica stepped down from the stage, her head high, her heart light. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. She was walking into her future, free, powerful, and fully her own.